Hi everybody, drawninjakc here, and today we're going to be drawing the red-eyed tree frog. The name is pretty much on the nose. It's red-eyed and it's a tree frog. But it's one of the more colorful frogs, so I decided to draw it for this totally awesome challenge that my friend Dina Tollefson is having on her page, and you might want to check that out. You might want to even be a part of it. So use hashtag totally awesome, and you guys will be able to see other artists' rendition of toads and in their styles and things like that. I'm going to show you mine, and mine is kind of a challenge in of itself, aside from being Dina Tollefson's Totally Awesome Challenge, because I'm challenging myself to make this realistic using the Posca markers. And of course, these are paint markers. They're very opaque and probably have zero blending capabilities. So the challenge is going to be extreme. So when you say Totally Awesome Challenge, I'm definitely being challenged by this toad. I'm going to go through the whole process of my prep and finish with you. I usually like to spread some trace paper on my desk because I'm going to be doing some gessoing on the illustration board. So to minimize the warping in one direction, I usually wet the back of the illustration board with water, because when it does get the moisture at the front of the illustration board, it can warp one way, which will make the illustration board fold forward. So I usually wet the back so that when I do wet the front and they dry together, the warping is very minimal. And this way they kind of shrink together, making it hard for it to warp one way or the other. They basically just warp both ways at the same time. So this does minimize the folding of the illustration board. And once I turn it over and hit the front with the gesso, I usually hit it twice, especially for this particular project, because instead of using, I could have used black paper because the background on this is going to be black, but I wanted the paper to be non-porous. I really wanted since I'm using Posca markers, I wanted it to stand on top of the paper and not get sucked into the paper. So I wanted to make sure that the paper didn't have any kind of like pores, which once I put down the marker, it gets sucked into the paper. So I hit it with gesso. Once it dried, I hit it with the black paint, with black acrylic paint, to cover the entire surface with the color that I want to be working on top of. I also used a white color pencil to draw the frog on top of the black background. As you can see, I just did one color at a time to just, it's much easier to do it that way, I guess. And I started off with orange in the eyes and on the digits of the frog. And as opaque as the markers are, I still had to go over the areas that were orange twice to make it, super opaque. But my reasons for using the gesso actually worked out, because the paint did manage to stay on top of the surface the paint from the markers, managed to stay on top of the surface, which made the colors really, really bright, and almost as if I was doing a neon drawing on top of the black background, which worked out really well. So my blending, as you see in the eyes, my blending had hard edges. Like the orange became a little bit more three-dimensional looking because I put red on the darker parts of the eye and yellow and white on the lighter parts of the body. And because the texture of the frog skin, the real life frog skin, was bumpy, it enabled me to be able to blend using the bumps. So I got lucky in the sense that the bumps allowed me to blend one color into the next. So to blend one color into the next, I would just use dots and gradual dots with the Posca markers, and subsequently discovered that one of the ways to blend with Posca markers is just to use stippling. That's it. That's the secret to blending with Posca markers. You can use stippling aside from just like squeezing the paint onto the surface and then using a brush to kind of blend it before it dries. I guess you can do it that way too, but if you're just using the markers, which is what I'm using for this particular portrait, just the markers, no brushes, then the way to blend and to create gradients is by stippling. And you can use, of course, the fine or the ultra fine, depending on how big you want the dots or how much you want it to blend. But I discovered that because the frog had these little, like, this bumpy sort of texture to its skin, it also allowed me to get away with using stippling as a blending factor, because and not make it look like I was trying to blend using stippling, but more that it was blending, but it was also being true to what the frog looks like. The frog was very bright already, so I used the color pencil in order to make the leaf that I was sitting on a little pastel. This way it can also enhance the brightness of the frog even more. And here you have the finished product in the flesh. Well, in my flesh anyway. Right, so here we go. So you guys think it looks realistic or not? I don't know. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate your time. If you are new to the channel, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please ring that notification bell so that you'll be able to see whenever I put up realistic frogs that look so real that they're able to jump off the page of the drawing.